Lots of people like myself claim the Toronto Raptors have a very bright future, but just how bright is it? In today's video, we're going to look at 4 future stars in the Toronto Raptors and reveal what their ceiling is going to be in the NBA. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? It's Jacob back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. We do at least 3 or 4 of these videos every single week, so to stay up to date with that great content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and help me on my road to 9,000 subscribers. And today, like I said, we're going to break down 4 future stars on the Raptors, and we're going to go into what their ceiling is in the NBA. Quick shout out to Mr. Bro from our Twitch streams for suggesting this video. Thank you so much for the support and thank you for the suggestion. But for these players, we're going to be talking about Scottie Barnes, Dalano Banton, Precious Achiuwa, and finally, Gary Trent Jr. in this video. I'm going to talk a little bit about their game this season and how that can translate to how good they can actually get for the Raptors. And I'm probably going to get a little bit excited talking about these guys because I think the future for these guys, like I said, is very, very bright. But without further ado, let's get into Scottie Barnes to start us off. So when the Raptors drafted him 4th overall, it was met with quite a bit of criticism, but Scottie Barnes has emerged into a Rookie of the Year candidate and one of, I'd say, the better players in the league already. Despite the fact that he is only 20 years old, Scottie Barnes has shown that he is way better than we were expecting. And what he brings is excellent offensive play in any of the 5 positions. He's a great ball handler, great at moving the ball. He has great court vision. He can get to the rim. He's actually sort of developing a jump shot. The mid-range at the elbow isn't that bad. And then the 3 ball is slowly starting to come to him. And again, only 20 years old. For a lot of these guys in the video, I'm going to say efficiency does come with age, and Scottie Barnes already averaging 15 points per game this young. He's doing all this other stuff on the court beyond just points. Like Scottie Barnes could get 3 points in a game and still be a huge factor on offense for what he brings to you in the ball handling, what he brings to you in sort of getting those assists, like firing out cross-court passes in the shooting pockets for other guys. He makes everybody else's life easier on the court. Defensively, I think that he's a little bit under what we were kind of expecting. We were expecting a very NBA-ready defender. I don't know if he's quite at the level I was expecting him to be, but he is going to get there. The way he can move his feet, the way he can stay with his check, his length, the way he can block shots, get steals, that's great. I think his off-ball stuff needs a little bit of work, but the on-ball stuff is fantastic for Scottie Barnes. I don't think he's going to quite win Rookie of the Year. I think Evan Mobley is going to win that, but I think Scottie Barnes is going to be a very close second. And if he goes on a big run for the end of the season, which, I mean, right now with OG Anunoby injured, the way he's playing, maybe he can make that push. He just won Rookie of the Month in the Eastern Conference for the months of February, so he's got that potential to get there. But as far as his ceiling goes, I mean, the amount of comparisons we label with this guy, like people are comparing him to Giannis, people are comparing him to Scottie Pippen. I like to compare him to Magic Johnson for the way he plays. The sky is the limit for Scottie Barnes. He's already averaging 15 points. I can legitimately see him averaging like 23, 24 points per game. I think he can be an efficient shooter, like 35% from 3. I think he is good enough to get there. Like he's already showing very good signs at 20 years old. Efficiency comes with age. And I'm expecting like a 48 to 50% field goal percentage for Scottie Barnes as well. That mixed with, like, depending on the position he's playing, but that mixed with something like 5 to 7 assists and like 5 to 7 rebounds as well. Like Scottie Barnes has everything he needs to be successful on both ends of the court. I think we're looking at somebody ceiling-wise who is a perennial all-star in the NBA. I'm serious. The sky is the absolute limit. As far as, you know, the top tier of NBA talent, don't know if he's capable of getting to like an MVP status, but I think ceiling, I think a generous ceiling for Scottie Barnes is a perennial all-star with the Raptors. Now let's get into our second player and speed this along. We're talking about Dalano Banton. He started off this season quite well with the Raptors. He's kind of faded off a little bit, but he consistently displays his talent. He doesn't always get the most amount of minutes with the Raptors, but every time he plays with the Raptors 905 in the G League, he showcases, even as a 46 overall pick, that he is too good for the G League. If you really get anything out of a mid to late second round pick in terms of NBA status, that's a bit of a dub for your pick. But I think Delano Banton can go a lot further than that. He showcased a lot of great stuff as a point guard. He's a lot more polished than I was expecting. He's pretty good at getting to the rim. I think the next steps for himself is not being fully committed on getting to the rim. I think he commits to a layup a little bit early and doesn't have a plan B. So he grabs it. I mean, the defenders obviously know he's going for a layup. And when that just isn't really going to happen for him, there's no bailout pass. There's nothing he can kind of revert to. He commits too early, and then it kind of leads to a bad shot sometimes. But the way he's playing right now at 22 years old, he's far beyond what I was expecting for him. I think that he's just going to sharpen up his game a little bit more offensively. He's a decent passer of the ball. I think that's going to get better. He's a decent scorer. I think that's going to get better. And his jump shot isn't as broken as I thought it was. In fact, there is a moderate jump shot available. Maybe somebody can shoot 30% from three in the future when necessary to do so. But the length that he brings on offense is great. Defensively, I think, again, he struggles a little bit off ball. On ball, he's a tad shaky, but pretty good. Pretty good, actually, especially considering his selection in the 46th overall position. I think that the ceiling for Delano Banton is... I don't think he's quite going to be a starting point guard in the NBA, but I think that is somebody that you can rely on as a backup point guard. Maybe not on like an actual legitimate contender. I think as far as the Raptors go, if they are going to be like a big contender in the NBA at some point, I think Delano Banton is kind of your third point guard on that list, maybe getting a little bit of minutes here and there in the regular season, giving you a role, can step up into a backup role if there are injuries. But I don't think for a true contender, he's going to get that first guy off the bench status. But I think we're easily looking at somebody who can be like your 9th or 10th guy in your rotation on any given night in Delano Banton, and getting that out of a 46 overall pick is very, very good. Now, let's move on to our third player on this list, Precious Achiuwa. And this is an interesting one. Precious Achiuwa clearly has talent. He was selected in the first round in the same year as Malachi Flynn in 2020. And the Raptors wanted to draft this guy. He was on their draft board. And if he slipped at 29th, the Raptors would have snapped it up. Instead, the Miami Heat got him, but the Raptors, they still wanted their guy, and they got him in a Kyle Lowry sign and trade. I believe that for Precious Achiuwa, when he was starting for the Raptors, I think he was kind of out of his element a little bit, and I prefer him coming off of the bench. He was a little bit shaky earlier on in the season, but always showed signs of being a really polished defender on the inside, like a really polished defender on the inside. In fact, when you look at the shooting splits between players, what their average is on the interior compared to what their shooting average is when Precious Achiuwa is defending them on the interior, he is one of the top players in the league in doing that. I think that players have their field goal percentage in that area drop by 5%, which is a little bit significant. It is significant what Precious Achiuwa does there. Also, the ability to go play on the outside on defense as well. He's always been that good defender. It's the offensive game that we're a little bit concerned about. In the preseason, he showed really good signs as like a ball handling big, which is like, wow, this guy is great. That changed a little bit in the regular season. I think his basketball IQ offensively does need some work, but the athleticism is there. And I think the IQ is starting to develop since the All-Star break where he was in the Rising Stars game. I mean, that's a pretty good feat for a player to achieve. But since then, he has been really good for the Raptors. He has been a lot smarter with his shot selection. He is getting to the rim, finding those high percentage looks a little bit more often. He is not reverting to the mid-range shot, which I don't think he should have in his game at all. Just, focus on your open catch and shoot threes and focus on getting to the rim. The less Precious Achiuwa dribbles the ball, the more efficient he is in his game. So I think that next steps, keep shooting those open threes, take 2 to 3 a game, those open looks. I think he's good enough to consistently knock them down at like a 33% rate at some point in his career. Get to the rim more often. And I would say the next step to really certify himself as like a starting center in the NBA, focus on those off-ball cuts to get those easy looks at the rim. Take some notes off of a veteran like Thad Young, who's very good at finding the empty space, backdoor cuts, diagonal cuts to the basket to find the feed from the great passers like Van Vliet, Barnes, and Siakam on this team. Get those points. Precious Achiuwa, I believe, is capable of being a starting center on a Raptors team who's looking to contend for a championship in a few years. I think Precious Achiuwa has this stuff to be a starting center for that team. At 22 years old, just as he refines his game more and more, as he gets that IQ up, like we're already seeing a little bit of development of that. When he gets that IQ to match the talent and natural skill set that he possesses, starting center for this team for sure, and a very interesting one at that. So let's get into our final player on this one. It is Gary Trent Jr. At 23 years old, Gary Trent Jr., his shot selection is so far beyond what it was last season. The criticisms I had from last season for a very talented scorer and not a great defender, the criticisms I had were he needs to sharpen up the shot IQ. He needs to sharpen it up. You got to know when to take the right shots, and he is really starting to do that. I wasn't expecting any sort of defensive development at all. I thought he was okay last year, definitely could use work. But now, like, he is really starting to find his feet defensively. He is a very good defender for this Raptors team, knows how to get the steals. I think sometimes he overcommits for the steals when he's just a little bit laid back and keep in front of his man. But I think that stuff is going to come for the 23-year-old. I think a good example of his defensive development is that game against the Pistons. It was a horrible game for him offensively. He shot 4 for 23, but stayed on the court because he was still bringing you the goods on the defensive end, still bringing you great stuff on defense that really helped the Raptors in their almost comeback against the Detroit Pistons. The defensive game, really developing, I think, can get even better. Offensively, the shot IQ, knows when to take the right shots, is getting to the rim a little bit more often. I think he can do it even more, get right to the rim for more high percentage looks, but the mid-range game is one of the smoothest in the league. The three-point game is great, and he consistently excels and gets better and elevates his level of performance as we get into those clutch circumstances. That's given the Raptors a lot of extra wins on this season, and as Gary Trent continues to develop, I'm worried about his contract because he signed that 3-year, $54 million contract with a player option in the third year. So after next season, he's got a player option. A little bit worried about that. But if he's with the Raptors long term, that is your starting shooting guard. And I think Gary Trent Jr. is one of those shooting guards capable of giving you 17, 18 points per game on average. The assists aren't really going to be there, but I'm not that concerned about that with my shooting guard. I want him to just be that scorer. He doesn't really need to have the ball all the time, just needs to be able to hit those shots. Give him the ball, let him do his thing, let him ISO and create the shot that he is looking for. Gary Trent Jr. is capable of doing that. Getting into that fringe all-star tier. I don't think Gary Trent is going to be at the all-star level in his career, but that fringe star tier, I think Gary Trent Jr. is destined for that level. So there you have it. Those are my ceilings for the 4 most exciting future stars on the Toronto Raptors. Let me know what you guys think about these projections. Do you think I overstated it? Do you think I understated it? All your thoughts and opinions, I want to see them in the comments down below. That is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please give a like on the video. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, supporting my brand, and also consider subscribing if you're new and you enjoyed as well. We do so many of these videos every single week. I promise to keep you entertained. If you love the Raptors, you are going to love Amateur Hour Sports as well. Make sure you're checking out our watch parties on Twitch, and I'll see you again next time for another video.